Ready as well while we're mocking.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Welcome back to the Blitz and Kick podcast, the podcast that brings you all football all the time, most of the time now. Close enough. We're getting there. Anyways, guys, we have a very special episode for you. This came about because I was very frustrated seeing a lot of the professional mock drafts being done that are just off the wall and stupid. So, we are going to do a better one for you. Let's quote unquote
Bad,
better. We'll
sir.
see. Consider this our holiday gift to you, and enjoy. As I'm sure these picks are going to be really interesting. Matt, let's kick it off easy with Chicago. We both had different opinions here. What made you want to swing towards Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I just don't see enough from Caleb Williams being the number one pick this year. I mean, I know he's came out and said like he'll basically determine on like whether or not to stay in college based on who has the first pick of the draft. And I do feel like he's not playing to the best of his ability. It's kind of self sabotage, if you will. And I seriously don't see him being the number one overall pick this year.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think that the Bears are desperate enough to do it because Fields just hasn't hit his stride as he should have, which isn't necessarily his fault. But you and I know this. It's a winning league. You win or you lose. You got to move on. You got to find something else. And honestly, they could probably get a good amount back for Fields. Maybe not like what they put into getting Fields, but you could get a decent amount back. And I think that's going to color a lot of their relationship on what they do in the future. That being
Yeah,
said, let's go to pick two because we just flip flop what we're doing here anyways. So go ahead. So why Caleb to Arizona?
I just, in my opinion, to me, Caleb Williams going to Arizona makes the most sense. As far as the Kyler Murray situation, granted, this last week was his first week back. He played fairly well, but with the antics that you sometimes see from Kyler Murray and his playability, I just don't see him continuing with the Arizona Cardinals after 2023.
Sure.
Therefore, I do see Arizona jumping the gun and taking Caleb Williams at two.
I agree. I don't know if they love anybody enough to do that because I agree with you. I'm iffy on Caleb Williams. I think the talent is there. I think everything else is not. Um, so I'd go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Look, Michael Wilson got hurt. Rondale Moore is okay. Hollywood Brown is about to be a free agent after this season, and that really leaves me with the question of who in the world is going to be catching passes from somebody. And honestly, Marvin Harrison is shaping up to be even better than Dad, just based on what we've seen in college. And
Absolutely.
I would give up half my franchise just to have a shot at Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think it's a good fit for the Cardinals. It just, like you said, it depends on what they do with quarterback next year. Let's go to three. We both agreed here. Um,
Mac
so
Jones 2.0.
it's true. I like Mac Jones. I don't necessarily think Mac Jones is the only problem with New England, but New
Mm-hmm.
England is going to pin it on Mac Jones and look for the replacement, which is fine. That's understandable. That's how the game goes. I smell another North Carolina bust here. This smells like Mitch Trubisky to me,
Absolutely.
and
I agree with
I
that.
I can't get away from it. Like no matter what I do, I'm just like this is Mitch Trubisky. Um, but somebody's going to do it because that's what this league is. It's a quarterback league, and if you don't have a decent quarterback, you're makes sense for the Patriots to go after somebody.
And to add on to that, you made the point that they are like the Patriots are going to pin it on Mac Jones. You're 100% correct. I mean, Bill Belichick, he's been in the league for a very, very long time. So of course, Robert Kraft isn't going to look at Bill Belichick and his play calling being the problem for New England. So why not abandon ship with Mac Jones and go and get Drake May?
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Let's go Chicago at 4 here. You and I are probably of the same mind here. In my mind, if you're going to have a new quarterback or if you're going to build on Fields, it doesn't matter. Go take a wonderful pass protector for him because that's 90% of Chicago's problem. And Olu Fashanu is fantastic. He should have gone last year and probably would have gone high last year, but he chose to do another year in college. And it's going to pay off for him because I think he's the best tackle in this draft.
I think so too. And, it's not just, the pass protection that needs help. It's the run offense that needs help. It's just that whole offensive line needs some help. So why not go and get a big guy like this to, boost your offensive line and produce better offense for Chicago Bears?
Yeah, and especially because that division is becoming more competitive by the day. So
yeah,
you're going to fall behind very fast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let's go to pick 5. You and I had some very different ideas here. I'll go ahead and share mine really quick because it's simple. Evan Neal was not what he was made out to be. He has not played anywhere near his potential. And that O-line is garbage. I almost went quarterback here, but I just feel like Daboll and that coaching staff just loves Daniel Jones, and I don't understand the love for Daniel Jones, but I see the Giants sticking with him because they paid him all that stupid money. So if you're going to stick with him, protect him or give him a weapon. So I decided to opt with protecting him with probably the second best tackle in this draft by that much.
See, I wanted to go quarterback as well, but for the same reasons you have, they love Daniel Jones for whatever reason. And honestly, the only quarterback I could see New York taking at this position, which I feel is a reach, would be Bo Nix. But I can't really put Bo Nix as a top 5 draft choice. Therefore, I went for Laiatu Latu as the edge rusher to kind of build up that defense a little bit because, they have some offensive weapons. Their wide receiving room could definitely use some help, but that defense, you're only going to be as good. Your defense is only going to be as good as your offense. If you don't have a good defense, well, you're not going to have a good offense.
Right, and you're going to put that offense on the field a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which that's not Daniel Jones's MO at all.
Not to mention, you figure Latu on one side and Thibodeau on the other side.
It's not bad.
It's going to be a scary off the edge.
Because I think Thibs has 10.5 sacks so far this season, which is that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Let's go pick 6. You're going to laugh at me again because I have just now chosen 3 pass protectors in a row. But I just feel like the Titans, these teams are here because they can't protect their quarterback. It doesn't matter who's back there. They can't protect them. Latham is a monster.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Latham's a monster. He's a big boy. And I don't feel like they ever addressed getting rid of Taylor Lewan. And I feel like Skoronski was fine. But Latham and Skoronski and just building some youth into that, build a future for Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears, build a future for Levis or whoever ends up being back there. But the problem is, and I love what you did too, because you got to throw to somebody. And Hopkins is 47. He's ancient, so you got to find somebody. And I do like the Malik Neighbors pick. I just couldn't pass up the idea of premier tackle early.
Yeah, I went wide receiver here mainly because, DeAndre Hopkins, he isn't getting any younger. If you really, let's just call it for what it is, that entire offense is kind of getting older and older by the day. Derrick Henry isn't getting younger. We've seen, his production is kind of slowed down quite a bit. And, it's only a matter of time before DeAndre Hopkins, completely falls off. So you might as well jump ahead of the curve, real quick and get a guy like Malik Neighbors to bolster that, offense and rejuvenate it, if you will.
Yeah. and I think he could end up being the Biletnikoff winner this year. He's very, very good receiver. I liked that pick. Let's go pick 7 with the Commanders. Again, we're just flip flopping, man. We're
I
just
was gonna
flip
say
flopping.
I'm noticing that trend and I like it.
Go ahead. Why Joe Alt for the Commanders?
So interesting stats so far. You know, Sam Howell is like one of the leading like passers this year, and it's working out great. So you might as I mean, I'm not saying that I'm sold on Sam Howell, but someone in the Commanders front office is.
Yeah.
So you might as well get someone who can protect him. Therefore, that's why we would Joe Alt here at pick 7 to bolster that that offensive line.
I like it. I just felt like the loss of Chase Young and Montez Sweat was too much for the Commanders to not invest heavily in an edge early. Like, sure, you could do it day 2, but if you could get day 1 and get a guy that's going to produce anywhere close to Montez Sweat, I'd do it. And I think Latu is a little bit more refined than Sweat was coming out of college. And I think that could benefit them immediately instead of finding another project child to say, oh, well, what do we do with him? And I just don't feel like the Commanders, if Howell continues to do what he's doing, are going to be in a spot of, well, let's rebuild, let's take our time, let's take some projects. No, they want some guys that are going to come in and compete early and make them better in that division. But the problem is you have the Cowboys and the Eagles, and somewhere you have to find your spot in that division.
Yeah.
So,
I like that pick.
Let's go pick 8 because we really started to separate here a little bit. Chop Robinson. Kyle would be jumping up and down in joy over this pick. I like me some Chop Robinson. Why for Falcons?
I went with Chop Robinson because, you know, I don't really understand Arthur Smith's like play calling for offense. Like, it seems like he's dead set on like keeping us on our toes every week with the offensive play calling. So I'm thinking build up that defense. That way you can get the offense on the field more for your more pound the run type of situation. Therefore, you get an edge rusher like Chop Robinson to, you know, get some sacks, get some pressure on the opposing offense, and get them off the field faster. That way you can get your offense on there. Kind of build that defense. Kind of the same thing, you know, with
Giants.
The Giants.
Sorry,
dogs. Don't wait.
You're good. Chop Robinson's a good pick here. Because I don't trust Arthur Smith, this is why I made this pick. If you have to bench the guy who's supposed to be the heir apparent, Ritter, with Taylor Heineke, that's not good. That speaks a lot to how your offense is going. And I was really tempted to pick a receiver here because Drake London and undrafted rookie Josh Ali are the only wide receivers under contract for 2024. That is horrid. But you've got Pitts, you've got Bijan Robinson. You can afford to wait and grab a receiver later. But your biggest need is quarterback. And I'm going to make a case. I hate LSU, but I'm going to make a case for Jaden Daniels. He is incredibly efficient with that LSU offense. And actually, Matt, his stats are on par with Joe Burrow in 2019. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, wow. Like, he's very effective. He's just on a crappy team. Which I'm like, that happens. So I think if you put actual better weapons around him besides Malik Neighbors, if you put better weapons around him, I think he would produce. And I think because Arthur Smith changes what he does week to week, Jaden Daniels will be the guy every week. And I think this would be kind of a match made in heaven for Arthur Smith. But the question is, do we trust Arthur Smith to make a good decision on draft day or be an idiot? So
I think Jay would agree with us both, honestly. You know,
probably
with Arthur Smith probably being an idiot on draft day.
Yeah, I think he would, and I also think he would be He'd probably disagree with us both, actually, come to think of it. There's probably somebody that he's like jonesing for, but we'll have to ask him about that. Let's go pick 9. The Packers, I feel like they're just like so mediocre this year. Like there's a lot that they've done well, and there's a lot that they've done really poorly. And I think we both agree that it has to come down to the defense. Nate Wiggins, what an interesting choice. What made you choose Wiggins over some of the available guys on the board?
So, if anything, they need to build up that secondary for sure. Like they need to build up the defensive side of the ball. They might as well start with the defensive backs. And honestly, I feel like Nate Wiggins, I think he'll surprise us. I feel like he's actually more NFL ready from a cornerback standpoint than most. Definitely not more than Kool-Aid. I actually, didn't even think about him until later in my mock draft, and it's just like,
that's all good.
Oh yeah,
that's all good. I like Kool-Aid because Kool-Aid is kind of one of those like Swiss Army knife kind of players. Like you can kind of do a lot with him. And I think the Packers would really benefit from that, not having a solid defensive identity. It would be nice to get in a guy that can kind of do a little bit of everything. And Kool-Aid just checks those boxes for me. And I think I could have gone O-line here or safety. But again, safeties aren't typical to go in the first round. For both of us, the offensive tackles were a little bit drained at this point in the draft. I think you just go with the best talent available, and that was Kool-Aid for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that was another reason for my pick there. I mean, aside from, building that secondary, really at this point, it would just be best available. Because, like you said, Green Bay has just been kind of like, this year. I mean, the Jordan Love experiment isn't panning out the way that it is. Christian Watson isn't playing the way that we thought he would.
He's a great wide receiver, too.
Yes. But I don't think he's a wide receiver 1.
No, not at all. He has not proven it, which I know he had injury a little bit this year, but still he hasn't proven that he's the top dog in that receiver room. I actually like Jaden Reed more than I like Christian Watson at this point, and that's kind of saying a lot. Let's go pick 10. Again, we varied rather well here. I'm going to throw some controversy here. I know quarterback is a need. I know it's a need. But honestly,
same here.
Baker's not horrible. I am not a Baker stan, but Baker is not horrible. He is actually keeping them on track to compete, which that's what they wanted. Great. You don't need Superman in there. But one of the things that's just they've been hurting with was losing Ryan Jensen. Cody Mock hasn't really come to it yet. Matt Filer and Aaron Stinney are both going to hit free agency. Like they're going to hurt really hard if they don't address O-line very easily. And I picked Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU because he kind of plays tackle and guard. So hopefully having that experience in college will kind of transfer to the NFL of, okay, you could plug him here, you can plug him there. He's more flexible than some guys coming out of college might be. And he's an absolute monster, so can't hurt.
See, I went to Brock Bowers here because, sure, that offensive line, it does need help. So why not get a big guy like Brock Bowers who can block, who can receive? Yeah. I mean,
he's nasty.
He is. And honestly, I was real hesitant about taking a tight end within the top 10. But it's just like, you know what?
He's worth it.
Yeah, he's definitely worth it. And I think he would help out Baker. And I'm in the same. I feel the same way about him as you do. It's just like he's not top tier quarterback by any means, but he's keeping the Buccaneers in contention.
Yeah.
So if you can rely on him to potentially make a playoff push. Why not get him another weapon like Brock Bowers to add to Chris Godwin and, granted, yeah, an aging Mike Evans, but it's still Mike Evans.
And Rachaad White and Brock Bowers. You're just really expanding the less work for Baker Mayfield.
Exactly.
I like that. And Cade Otton hasn't really turned into what they were hoping for either. So Bowers makes sense. Let's go pick 11, the Jets. They need some help. They need all kinds of help. I think you could have thrown a dartboard and said that's good for the Jets and moved on, honestly, because they're in so much pain on that whole team.
Yeah. And, you feel for the Jets because, there were a lot of high expectations with Aaron Rodgers coming there and them building up and so on and so forth. And then 3 plays in, that just got shot, yeah. So, for me, I decided to go defensive tackle here with Jer'Zhan Newton.
Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce it, yeah.
Yep.
Either way, I went with him because he is a nasty, nasty player.
Yeah.
I mean,
pair him with Quentin Williams. That would be really, really mean.
Oh yeah. But I do like the pick that you have here with Keon Coleman because he could be a good receiver.
He really
Very
could.
good receiver.
And I'm worried that Garrett Wilson is like the only weapon they have besides Breece Hall, and even Breece Hall is not much of a receiving threat. I know they're talking about pursuing Davante Adams in the offseason, but the Raiders have explicitly said multiple times, we are not moving on from Davante Adams. So you make all the trade offers you want, New York, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have to go into draft day and say, guess we'll draft somebody. If we still get Adams, great, but I wouldn't bank on it. You know what I mean? Like they're planning to. So I think Keon Coleman is some good insurance. I think he'd be a good speed inside guy to pair with Garrett Wilson.
I do wish that the Raiders would move on from Davante Adams as a Davante Adams fantasy owner.
Yes, me too. But I'm okay with Aiden O'Connell because Aiden O'Connell actually targets Davante Adams.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jets. Those were good picks. Let's go pick 12. Once again, we are in the same boat with the Chargers. They've struggled a lot, but I think it's less because they're not talented. I just think they've been really unlucky.
I can agree with that. I mean, Mike Williams going out, with, I think it was an ACL tear, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so, the offense I don't feel is the issue. It's just, a lot of bad luck, injuries, so on and so forth. But with that, let's build that defense. Let's build that secondary some more. That's why I went with Kool-Aid McKinstry to boost that secondary even more than what it potentially could be.
That was my thought on Kalen King. I almost went running back here, but there's no running back that hits me like Bijan. There's no running back that hits me like Breece Hall. There's no running back that hits me that's like, oh my gosh, this guy could be a game breaker. They're all good, but they're not like, oh, I'm going to spend a 12th round pick on them good. So,
honestly, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like there's any running back.
If you say Blake Corum, I'm canceling you.
No. I don't even feel like he's a first-round running back, if I'm being 100% honest.
He's good.
Yeah, he's good. He's good, but I don't think he's first-round talent.
Yeah. He's early second round. I'd say early second round, but not.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. Let's. So we talked about one LA team. Let's talk about the other one. I knew before you ever sent me your mock draft, I knew you were going to put Bo Nix here. And when I was putting it in, I'm like, yep. So I want to hear it. Let me hear it. Bo Nix favoritism. Let me hear it.
I don't even know if it's so much favoritism. I think it's just, it seems like a perfect fit. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not taking anything from Matt Stafford.
You don't believe in Stetson Bennett?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, as much as I want to see Matt Stafford play a couple more seasons and a long shot. I would like to see him win another ring, but that's I don't see that happening. Bo Nix and with the Los Angeles Rams, it makes sense. Like it just like it meshes well. And I don't know if it's because the style of offense that the Rams have and the style of quarterback that Bo Nix is, it just fits. But to me, it's just like a hand in a glove.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did put Nix in the first round. You'll see what I did in a minute because it's yeah. I'm not going to spoil it. I'll just tell you in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and say that the Rams never replaced Andrew Whitworth, and I think that's part of what Matt Stafford's problems are with his injuries because he's getting whacked all the time. And I think when you get whacked at that age, you don't just get back up and say, "I feel great." It's kind of a process. Tylese Fuaga is on Oregon State. He's moving up boards for awards. Pretty successful. Oregon State is not like a perennial powerhouse, but he's doing pretty well for DJ Ukulele because I can never actually say his name. Ukulele. Oh my gosh. Anyways, this one just
I'll
makes
give you an
sense
A
to
for
me.
effort.
Thank you. This one makes sense to me. They need to replace somebody, and he's another one of those combo guard tackle guys. So, yeah, let's go pick 14. Does this make sense to you now? If the Raiders are going to do the most Raider thing ever, they're going to take Bo Nix. Because Bo Nix to me is a slightly better Jimmy Garoppolo.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. And like if I'm not saying I don't trust Aiden O'Connell, but what I am saying is I don't think he's the answer long term for the Raiders. That's why I went Jaden Daniels here because there are a lot of weapons for him to throw to. With Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. I mean, they could go and get a couple other weapons this year or this offseason, whether it be through the draft or whether it be through free agency. And, I think long term, Jaden Daniels in a Raiders uniform, that fits.
Yeah. I like him. I had my whole campaign for him earlier, so I won't disagree with you on that. I just think, and I think we're of the same mind, that if you're going to scrap your whole management, if you're going to scrap your whole offensive coordinators and head coach and all that crap, you need to just start fresh with a new quarterback. Jimmy G got ditched. That should speak volumes to how he's playing. I think they'll still give him a chance or trade him, is my guess, because he is owed a lot of money. But it would make sense for them to draft a quarterback and make him compete for the job. And if you can't win it, there's your answer, and you move on from Jimmy G. After pick 16, we do ads, by the way. I forgot to tell you that. Let's go pick 15. Hello, local Colts fans that are probably sitting in anticipation, skipping other picks to get to pick 15. We're here to help you because Matt and I are smart football people. Josh Downs looks great, but Michael Pittman is a free agent this offseason. And honestly, I think Michael Pittman could be tired of losing. Colts fans, no offense. But if I were him and I could get the bag somewhere else, I'd go get the bag. So this is totally conditional on if Michael Pittman is gone.
Exactly.
But Malik Neighbors, slam dunk for the Colts. Romo Duns, slam dunk for the Colts. Both are insanely good this year. Both have very good quarterbacks, and we've already seen that Anthony Richardson has actually proven that he can be a halfway decent quarterback. So it makes sense to start putting weapons around him to start competing in that division because look what Jacksonville did. As soon as Jacksonville put weapons around Lawrence blossomed into a good quarterback suddenly. Which, granted, that was Evan Ingram and Calvin Ridley, so I think you can do better than that. But you get my point.
Yeah, and honestly, even if Pittman stays in Indy, I would honestly say that they go wide receiver anyway, because obviously they don't have that reliable of a target for tight end per se. So why not go for like a 3 wide receiver set with Pittman, Downs, and potentially either Neighbors or Aduns or Adunze? Adunze? Is that how you pronounce his name?
It's the only one I didn't research before we did this.
Either way, go ahead and get that third wide receiver for Richardson, because you definitely don't need to look at running backs in this situation because you have Jonathan Taylor. The only thing that I could really suggest for Colts is, one, teach Anthony Richardson how to slide rather than take a hit, and two, get someone on the offensive line to protect him as well. Outside of that, you definitely need to go wide receiver.
Let me go to the next slide. I almost put Brock Bowers for the Colts. I almost did it, but they've spent so much capital on tight ends. I just can't visualize them saying, let's take a tight end in the first round. Do you know how angry Colts fans would be if they took a tight end in the first round?
God.
They'd be so mad. But it does make sense for the Broncos because you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Courtland Sutton, you've got Russell Wilson, you've got Javonte Williams, you've got all the offensive stuff that you need, except for a tight end. You just don't have a reliable tight end threat. And Brock Bowers is a touchdown machine. And if you want to get the best out of Russell Wilson because you overpaid for Russell Wilson, whoopsie, did I say that? You go out and you get him a good weapon to compete because you play in a very tough division. And you need to be creative offensively. And that means you pick up somebody that knows how to score a touchdown. And that's Brock Bowers.
See, I like that pick. I do. And honestly, I wanted to go quarterback here. But the Broncos are paying Russell Wilson a stupid amount of money. I can't really foresee them just moving past him. Not yet, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to go defense here because, that AFC West, their offenses are phenomenal. You need to get pressure. Yeah, I mean, that you got to go, defense here to get some pressure on some of those offenses. I mean, they're just crazy. So Dallas Turner seems like he would be the guy that can get pressure off the edge and put, pressure on that Patrick Mahomes, put pressure on a Justin Herbert, and whoever the Raiders, quarterback is going to be this time next year.
Because Von Miller played that role and was a menace to lots of quarterbacks. And if you can find the right guy, you can do it and you can compete.
Let's be honest, since Von Miller left, they haven't really had anyone. So here's your guy, I feel like, with Dallas Turner.
For sure. Let's hear from our sponsors real quick, and then we'll hop right back to pick 17.
Fresh Cuts is our amazing sponsor who has been with us since 2020. Fresh Cuts is the local barbershop hangout in Marion, Indiana. If you're looking for a full-service barber with excellent cuts and a welcoming atmosphere, contact Caleb Kemper for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com. Mondays are the best days to get in, although he has plenty of time slots available. And if you happen to miss us live, you'll be hearing us in the shop while you enjoy your fresh cut. Slide on by to Fresh Cuts to pick up some stylish footwear with Caleb's Fresh Kicks collection. From Nike to Jordans, he offers the best price for quality kicks. And if you don't find what you like, Caleb offers custom work for $250. Stop over to 1224 North Baldwin Ave in Marion to pick up yours today, or Caleb also ships all over the U.S. Message him for prices and sizes. Our other people we sponsor, Steve Wood Illustrations and Ronald Morell for Mayor. Check out their respective pages on Facebook. And our other friends at other podcasts, the Culture Corner podcast, 1,000 Wives of Weird, and Rules of the Frame. Check them out on their respective platforms listed below.
Sorry, that's such a bop. Anyways, let's pick up at 17 with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm running fully on the idea that Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are going to look pretty honest this offseason, which would make sense. Pick up another guy. T. Higgins absolutely deserves to be a wide receiver somewhere else because he's just going to live in Jamar Chase's shadow that whole career. We've already talked about Ramadones. Tylese Fuaga, I was glad to see that on this list. Kyle and I have talked for years about the Bengals investing in their own line.
Let's be honest. I think, with how this season has gone for Joe Burrow, they may look at it and be like, you know what? Maybe we need to protect this guy.
Maybe.
I mean, obviously the calf strain, that was freak accident training camp.
Right.
That's going to happen. But, yeah. He needs protection. Joe Burrow needs the protection. I'm not saying, he's the next great quarterback. I mean, I think, there's other he could be up there. But he needs protection for sure. Otherwise, it's going to be another Andrew Luck scenario.
I want to see if you like this. So I remember from years ago, and I will go and I will find this and I will snip it out and I will post it. We've always done mock drafts. That's what started this whole podcast, was mock drafts back to 2019. And when we were talking about the year after Joe Burrow was drafted, we had a debate between Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell. And I made the argument they should pick Penei Sewell, have a lovely tackle for years, and then you can go get whatever wide receiver you want for years after that. Did they listen to me? No, they didn't. And now look where Joe Burrow is. It's insane. Like, if you would just invest in taking care of your quarterback, you wouldn't have these problems. And you'd probably be leading the division because the Ravens are like hot garbage. So,
hashtag facts.
yeah. Let's go pick 18 here. J.C. Latham. I love J.C. Latham, but Brandon, I love every Alabama player that comes through, so that's not saying a whole lot. Why J.C. Latham?
I went with Latham here. Kind of the same situation as, the Bengals. Obviously, Josh Allen, first off, he needs to stop turning the ball over. Secondly, he might need some, protection as well. Now, it was very hard for me to not go with wide receiver here because, it's no secret, Stephon Diggs and how he feels about Josh Allen these days. It's kind of rough waters. However, I kind of went, the safe route here and went with J.C. Latham to get some added protection for not only Josh Allen, but James Cook out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm. He's a menace. I like James Cook a lot.
Same here.
I went Jared Verse. Ed Oliver's fine, but their defense as a whole has always been okay. Their secondary, great, but that front line is just okay. I think Jared Verse, I think Jared Verse could come in and add that explosiveness that they need to really dominate that division because both sides of the ball have really let them down this year. And Verse could have probably been edge number one off the board, but I think things have changed in the past couple months to affect that. So the talent level is still there. So let's go pick 19. Yeah, I had to think what comes after 18. I forgot about this. I want to hear your explanation for this, sir, because Derek Carr is actually a good quarterback.
He is a good quarterback, yes. But, in my opinion, his days are kind of numbered as being a starting quarterback. I do feel like he's going the same route as what Andy Dalton did, where, he did have a lot of good years, but then it's just slow decline. And I hate it because I do like David Carr. But it's just to me, Michael Penix Jr. with the Saints and how explosive that offense could be with a mobile quarterback like him. So that's why I went with Penix here.
That makes sense. I had to go Marius Mims. They've had a lot of problems with their offensive line. They had to move Andrews Pete to left tackle to replace their second-year guy, Trevor Penning, which is never good when you're having to replace somebody. I think Amarius Mims could come in and be an instant starter on that line because at the end of the day, I don't care who your quarterback is, you got to protect him. And Derek Carr's been injured for a reason this year. Let's leave it there. Let's go pick 20. Yeah, I knew you were going to do this too.
Maybe I'm being a little biased, but I like J.J. McCarthy going to Minnesota. I like it a lot. You look at Michigan's style of offense, it's a traditional spread offense. You know, you have the quarterback scrambling out to the flat, dumping it off to the tight end, which would work perfect with Minnesota. I mean, I hate to see them move on from Kirk Cousins because numbers-wise, Kirk Cousins has been doing fairly well up until the injury. For the most part. It just doesn't produce a whole lot of wins.
Yes, he's just cursed. Like, he's great, but also what have you done for me lately? You know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was with this pick because Penix, I love Penix. I really do. I think he deserves his own fair due for making it happen. Even at Indiana, he was good. Like, the schools that you're performing well at, sir, are not good schools. So you're doing something right. And I just think it would be nice to give Minnesota a dual threat quarterback. And he kind of fits that bill a little bit because your run game is dumb. Your run game is really dumb. you need to revamp that run game because Madison was supposed to be much more than he was. And losing Cam Akers was not helpful. And then, you've just been cursed in your run game this year.
And honestly, Ty Chandler has kind of helped out tremendously. I use that term loosely, mind you, but he's at least producing more than what Madison has so far. So,
sure, that makes sense. Let's go pick 21, Arizona Cardinals. I could just tell you anything, and that would probably be okay. But the reason I chose D tackle, they just don't have any threats on defense anymore, especially because of their whole controversy on trading picks for nothing to try to tank. They're just not scary. I think defense they need to improve on because if you're going to go and get Marvin Harrison, I don't think you're going to want to put anything else on the offense. And Marvin Harrison by himself is a great pickup. Jerzon Newton is a menace, and I think could actually bring some rushing presence to that defense because they're not. I don't think offenses are staying up at night thinking, "Oh, we play the Cardinals defense tomorrow," So.
Yeah, for Cardinals defense, they, like you said, there's nothing flashy, there's nothing scary about it whatsoever. And, I know you haven't taken Marvin Harrison, I haven't taken Caleb Williams, but to me they need to do something about that defense, and honestly, that's why I went with Cooper DeJean here. Just, one, because it was kind of a best available situation, and two, they need to do something about that defense. So rejuvenate a little bit, get some young talent in there, and that's why I went with Cooper here.
That makes sense. Pick 22. Actually went linebacker because Bobby Wagner isn't going to do it forever, and he's getting very old. I'd like to see his replacement soon. And Jeremiah Trotter is an absolute force of nature. Probably the best linebacker in the draft, which doesn't say a whole lot because Clemson hasn't performed well this year, but they have a lot of really good defensive pieces on their offense, or the defense. Sorry, baby screaming. I'm probably going to pause here in a second and jump out.
Oh, you're good. I kind of went with Jared Verse here along the same lines just because, Bobby Wagner, as you said, can't do it forever. So bring in a guy like Jared Verse, he can learn from one of the best and, just take notes and kind of become a Bobby Wagner 2.0. Yeah, he's an edge rusher, but, same concept. Get a lot of pressure on offenses.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go pick 23. Their secondary is garbage. We both can agree on that. I went Cooper DeJean. Dude, you need to go watch this highlight. I don't remember who it was against, but he almost returned the punt return to win the game, and then they called some crap call of like defensive holding and reversed it. But the return itself was magical, and I think having one of those guys that can be flexible would be really good for the Steelers because I know they're 6-4, but they're not good.
No, they really aren't. And, I know a lot of Steelers fans out there that are like, they are just hot garbage right now. And I know there's a lot of people happy for something completely off topic, but, Matt Canada being fired. So,
That was a great
but
move.
regardless, I decided to go with Cam Kinchins here because, like you said, they need to build that secondary tremendously. Like, it's just god awful. So get someone like Cam who is NFL ready to, build that secondary back up to the where it potentially could be like it was a decade ago.
Makes sense. Let's go pick 24, the Texans. It's kind of weird to be picking for them this late. This one's real easy. Will Anderson has been amazing as a rookie. And I think you just open up possibilities for him even more if you plug somebody on the other side. And Chop Robinson is a incredible, lanky, quick defender. And I'd like to see Will Anderson and Chop Robinson just destroy that division.
Yeah, I went with Ibuka here because CJ Stroud has done wonders with wide receivers who we didn't even know who they were until they started producing. Like, I knew of Nico Collins, but Tank Dell didn't know who that guy was. Noah Brown didn't know who he was. But CJ Stroud is making something out of nothing. So why not go ahead and bring in a Ohio State connection with Emeka here?
Sure.
And I just feel like you bring in a guy like that with CJ Stroud doing the things that he's doing as a rookie, that offense can be scary.
Yeah. Speaking of old mock drafts, I actually had Tank Dell in one of our early mock drafts going to the Chiefs in round 1. And had the Chiefs listen to me, maybe we would have seen less of this in 3 games this year, and you may have actually been winning. But, I'm just a fan. What do I know?
Yeah, what do we know?
Let's go to pick 25 for the Dolphins. I sense the why in the world did you pick this, and I would love to explain that. Hill's great. Waddle is great. But eventually Tyreek's going to age out. Waddle has been injury prone. And it just makes me worry that if one of those guys are out, who do you have? Like, truly. And Tua has not proven that he can do it with anything. He kind of needs help, which is okay. There's lots of quarterbacks that do. But Egbuka would just be a menace. Can you imagine Egbuka, Waddle, and Hill on the same offense, the same field, and you got to pick who you're going to cover?
Yeah, it's just like, okay, who do I pick? And, I think there's an interview, leading up to the season, how Tyreek Hill, he was going to look to retire by age 32 or something like that. It might be early, I don't know. So, it definitely wouldn't hurt to get the replacement. I don't know how you replace a Tyreek Hill, but you can at least try by, getting a wide receiver in this year's draft. There seems to be a lot of good ones. But I did go with offensive tackle here because I do feel like Tua needs some more help. He's taken less hits. There's definitely a lot less concussions this year. But why not build that offensive line a little bit more? Not to mention, you got a couple good running backs with Mostert and A-Chain. So you might as well go ahead and boost up that offensive line, not only for the pass offense, but for the run offense as well.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go pick 26. Braylon Trice, you have an edge. I'm assuming this has to do with helping Micah Parsons.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be honest, I wanted to go wide receiver here, but Braylon Trice on the other side of the ball, or on the other side of the line with Micah Parsons, it just seems scary. It just seems scary. And I hate to give the Cowboys credit. I really do, because they're that team that they say they're going to go to the Super Bowl every year. They're doing this, they're doing that, blah 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 blah, but they fall short. But I do like Micah Parsons, but I do feel like he needs some help on the defensive side of the ball.
Agreed.
Therefore, Braylon Trice makes sense.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured when I saw that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Help out Micah, make Micah do less. I went Graham Barton here. Tyron Smith is going to be a free agent this offseason. And he missed time due to injury, so I don't know how much money you want to throw at a tackle that's been injured often. Even though he's one of the best tackles in the game, do you pay him all that money? Do you just draft his replacement? I think if I'm the Cowboys, you just draft his replacement and let him walk, because there are other areas that you can address with that money. And, that kind of stands for itself. Let's go pick 27. It's nice to see the Niners getting a pick this year in the first round and not the third. We both had the same thought here, so I'm going to just make mine short and sweet. They didn't take any offensive linemen in last year's draft, hoping that Aaron Banks, Spencer Buford, and Colton McClitz would step up, and none of those have looked good. I didn't even know those names until I looked them up. But I'm going to say take Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State. Big guy, probably the best pure guard in the draft. I do like Barton also, but their offensive line is really bad.
Yeah, it's funny because they have all these weapons. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, McCaffrey, and out of nowhere, Brock Purdy is doing well. So I do feel like offensive line is where they need to address the issues most. Their defense, sure, there's some pieces there, but I feel like they need to take priority with building the offensive line over anything else in this year's draft, in the first round at least.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go pick 28. I had to look up who Tyler Nubin was. I have a whole list of safeties, and he was not on my list, so I had to look him up. But we both agree secondary. Nubin, what drew you to Nubin?
For me, obviously, really, you could address either the safety or the corner here. I went with safety because the Jaguars, I feel like Tyler Nubin just makes sense with helping that secondary out a lot. I'm not saying I feel like he's more of a project type of safety, but it's a project that I feel like would be well worth it. So that's why I went with him there.
That makes sense. Nate Wiggins, we've talked about. Jaguars secondary is iffy. That one we can kind of put to bed. Let's go pick 29. Now, this fully rests on what in the world they do with Chris Jones, for me, because they got him back after he played the holdout game. What's to say he's not going to do it again, or just straight up leave the Chiefs? So I went with Mason Smith out of LSU. He's a big dude, and their defense usually produces some big guys, some good quality players. But I like Adonai Mitchell, the former Bulldog. That's a solid pick, especially because their wide receivers are pretty garbage.
I was gonna say, I feel like I had to go wide receiver for Kansas City because their receiving core, outside of Travis Kelce, of course, is just a hot mess. Like, it's just, ugh. So
Cannot catch a ball to save their lives.
no, and like it's sad to see because last year when we were doing mock drafts, we were talking Sky Moore up like there was no tomorrow. We were talking like we were coaching the guy up, and it was just like, hey, this guy has a lot of speed. He can catch the ball, blah blah blah, and then it's just like, what happened?
Yeah, he's been nothing really in that offense.
Yeah, so go get Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, build up that receiving core, do something, get Patrick Mahomes like a reliable receiver outside of Travis Kelce, because eventually Travis Kelce is not going to be able to do it at the level that he's been doing it for X amount of years.
And he's already talking about retirement, which that would hurt the Chiefs tremendously.
Oh yeah,
Let's
gonna go on tour. Gonna go on tour with Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are unheard of, the Lions are 8-2 right now, and kind of making me rethink my whole life. But
Scary. It's
because
scary.
of that, they're actually really high up here, and that's terrifying. I went with Dallas Turner, and here's why. They don't have anybody else that's been consistent besides Aiden Hutchinson. You have Charles Harris, Romeo Okwara, and those names don't frighten me whatsoever. It would be really nice to pair the Michigan and Alabama kid and just let them go wild. Because I'll be honest with you, a lot of Aiden Hutchinson's sacks have not happened because of offensive holding, and they don't call it. And I'm like, you can't like just let him play. He'd be blowing people away in sacks led right now if they would just let him play.
Oh yeah.
And he'd be even better if you had a huge threat on the other side in Dallas Turner. So that was my thinking for the Lions on this one.
Yeah, I kind of went the same route, with Leonard Taylor here. Obviously not an edge rusher, he's an interior defensive lineman, but it's still building up that defensive line to where Aiden Hutchinson can be better than what he already is.
Sure.
And, the defense is scary enough the way that it is, surprisingly. Well, I guess I really shouldn't say surprisingly because, Dan Campbell is defensive-minded type of coach. However, that defense is only going to get better as, years progress.
Yeah.
Especially if once, Aiden Hutchinson hits his peak. So, might as well find someone to pair with him and let him rush every offensive line imaginable.
It's true. Let's go pick 31. Thank you for thinking like I do. And the fact that we draft glass receivers every year, except for Flowers. Flowers has been a breath of fresh air. He hasn't been destroying the league by any means, but he's very consistent, and that makes me happy. The problem with that is Rashad Bateman is crap. The problem with that is Odell is crap. The problem with that is Nelson Aguilar is crap. And Nelson Aguilar and Odell are probably going to be free agents after this season, which leaves us with Zay Flowers and a broken Mark Andrews. So I would love if back-to-back drafts we drafted a receiver. I would be okay with that. Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina is a fast dude, and I feel like we need some speed because Lamar can throw. He just doesn't have anybody to throw to ever.
Yeah, and Zay Flowers, he's exceeded my expectations, that's for sure. I thought he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be great coming out of the gates.
Yeah.
But he's proven me wrong. Yeah, Rashad Bateman, Odell, he's not. Hot take, just for a moment. I feel like Odell has always been kind of like overrated. I'm sorry, you heard me say it here, but he had maybe two or three good seasons.
Okay.
Outside of that, what's he done?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the Ravens taking a wide receiver here, it makes sense. So that's why I went with Keon Coleman. I
If
do
Keon
like.
Coleman falls to us, I will scream myself into a coma on draft day.
You never know. You never know. You know how? I mean, you know how drafts go anyway. I mean, during the combine, someone or multiple players just leap, like go leaps and bounds over others,
Yeah,
and some players just fall due to that reason. So
sure.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It's improbable, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go with our last pick 32. I like the Kalen King pick. I don't know how you feel about my pick because I was very on the fence about what I wanted to do, but Kyle approved. So I went JT Tuiamalau. Gosh, that's awful. I hate, like, I love Samoan people because Tua Tagovailoa is Samoan. But holy cow, you guys gotta give us a manual or something on some of these names. Like, holy crap. But JT is really good. I think he would be a really good component to work with. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, all those young guys, because Fletcher Cox is not going to be around forever. Brandon Graham is not going to be around forever. Some of those guys are aging out, which I know they're not the same position, but you're going to need that defensive force. And JT's a little bit of a project, but I don't feel like it's enough of a project that it wouldn't help the Eagles right away to draft him.
I was gonna say that's not a bad pick at all. I went with Kalen King here because that secondary, it's not bad, but Darius Slay could use some help every so often. So I feel like you get a young corner in there who is a Pennsylvania product. So it makes sense for Philadelphia to take a Pennsylvania kid and let him play.
I like it. Well, thank you all for hanging with us. That has been a special gift from us to you of our first mock draft. We originally weren't going to do a first mock draft until the winter, but we did one just for you. It's very early. Lots going to change, but hopefully you liked our picks. Let us know what you think. Let us know if your team needs more than what we gave you, because that's also important too. But thanks for hanging. Have a happy Thanksgiving, guys. Enjoy some turkey and sides, because the sides are always better than turkey. But I didn't say that. But thanks for hanging, and we'll see you guys next time.
Happy Thanksgiving.